What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so if you saw my committee hearing video from yesterday, you would know exactly what I'm about to tell you guys. Check this out. New York Attorney General Letitia James indicted on fraud charges, AP sources say. That is right. So they finally got the indictment on good old Letitia James. And you know what, folks? If this actually goes through and she gets convicted for this, of course, you never know. They may call for impeachment before this, but because of the particulars of the case, if you will, she could be ousted from her position as New York Attorney General. Because if she put down on those mortgage documents that a house in Virginia that she was actually buying for somebody else, that we believe, at least according to all the evidence that we have. Yeah, she said that was her main residence. And as an attorney general, you must live within the state that you work in, right? You must live in that state. You got to reside there if you're going to be the attorney general. She could have violated her oath of office, and that is grounds for termination or impeachment, however you want to call it. But termination sounds so much better, don't it? Right? Think about it like this. If this goes through and she does end up getting impeached, Donald Trump will absolutely have a Truth Social post saying, "You're fired, Letitia." And I'm going to love that. I'm going to make sure and find that and click the like button. Which, by the way, you guys need to click that like button. Subscribe if you're new around here and you like more videos like this. And share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And sign up, become a member. That would be great. A grand jury has indicted New York Attorney General Letitia James on a fraud charge in the latest Justice Department case against a perceived enemy of President Donald Trump. A person familiar with the matter told the Associated Press on Thursday. Here we go, folks. And you can tell the political bias of the Associated Press because they're not telling you that Letitia James committed a crime, allegedly. No, they're telling you that, she got indicted because she's an enemy of Donald Trump. They're going with the political retribution narrative. And we knew they would, folks. They always do. This is why the Associated Press is not a serious news organization. They're not really that serious. They're a partisan hackery outlet, if you will. That's what I call them, at least. James was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia on one count after a mortgage fraud investigation, said the person, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the matter. Right? That was an intentional leak, I bet. James's office had no immediate comment Thursday. I wouldn't comment either. I'd be hush-hush about that because, yeah, she's guilty. More than likely. The indictment, 2 weeks after a separate criminal case charging former FBI Director James Comey with lying to Congress, is the latest indication of the Trump administration's norm-busting determination to use the law enforcement powers of the Justice Department to pursue the president's political foes and public figures who once investigated him. I love that, folks. They're trying to ram it into your brain that Donald Trump is just an authoritarian in a tuxedo. That's all they're trying to do. Calling him a Nazi without calling him a Nazi, essentially. Like, tell me you hate Donald Trump without telling me you hate Donald Trump type of thing going on here, folks. Like, was it really necessary? On the same page, right? That's the same page. Just, you skipped a paragraph. You just told us that it's Donald Trump's political revenge, and then you're going to tell us again, it's because of Donald Trump's political revenge. Wonder how many more times they're going to indicate that Donald Trump has a political retribution campaign currently underway in the United States. The James case remained under seal Thursday, making it impossible to assess what evidence prosecutors have. Hang on just a second. We've already seen that evidence. You guys have already reported on that evidence. But what they're trying to do is some micro-manipulation, folks. Absolutely. They're trying to say with that is There's no clear evidence of any wrongdoing here. Letitia James is innocent, and Donald Trump, once again, is going after his political enemies. But as was the case with the Comey charges, the prosecution followed a strikingly unconventional case. The Trump administration 2 weeks ago pushed out Eric Siebert, the veteran prosecutor who had overseen the investigation for months but had resisted pressure to file a case, and replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, a White House aide who was once Trump's personal lawyer but who has never worked as a federal prosecutor. Halligan presented the case to the grand jury herself, as she did in the case against Comey, according to the person familiar with the matter, right? Once again, this is an unsubstantiated claim because it's an anonymous source, and they're not going to tell us who this person is. Trump has been advocating charging James for months, posting on social media without citing any evidence that she's guilty as hell. And telling reporters at the White House, it looks to me like she's really guilty of something, but I really don't know. Now, once again, folks, what they're trying to do with that, they're cherry picking from that statement where Donald Trump also laid out the evidence from the investigation from the housing authority, the Federal Housing Authority or whatever, because they turned over a criminal referral to the DOJ, and they published a news article where they listed the evidence of this as a matter of fact. And now the Associated Press is feigning ignorance. We have no idea what's going on, and Donald Trump is saying this without evidence. Once again, folks, like in my last video, did they say that this Rutgers professor, who is actually an Antifa leader, did they say that, oh, he made all these claims without evidence? No, because what they want to do with this is they're trying to make you believe that Donald Trump is lying. The Associated Press, we're telling you the truth. So believe us. Believe us. It's not us that's making the world very partisan, that just so happens, reality skews to the left, according to the Associated Press. That's what they're trying to say. And that Donald Trump and all these right-wing extremist guys over here, they're just lying about everything. There's no evidence. Do not go research any of this, please. I'm just saying. James, a second-term Democrat, has denied wrongdoing. She has said that she made an error while filling out a form related to the home purchase, but quickly rectified it and didn't receive the lender. And didn't deceive the lender. I apologize about that. Right? So now they're spelling out the evidence once again, but in a very, very abbreviated form. And they're missing a lot of the pertinent information here. Her lawyer has accused the Justice Department of concocting a bogus criminal case to settle Trump's personal vendetta against James, who last year won a staggering judgment against Trump and his companies in a lawsuit alleging he lied to banks and others about the value of his assets. Yeah, but folks, once again, he did. We'll say that outright. But look, think about it like this. They charged Donald Trump with this, okay? So this loan was from his organization, from his real estate company, right? Where they listed one of his properties as collateral, right? In the documents for the loan, Donald Trump said, this is how big this is. But it wasn't Donald Trump, was it? Donald Trump didn't write up any of those documents, did he? Because it wasn't a personal loan. It wasn't a mortgage. It wasn't anything to do specifically with Donald Trump. It was his company. This is why they want to shutter his company, right? But on the other hand, with Letitia James, this was a personal mortgage. So she filled out the paperwork, probably, right? I'm not going to say for sure because, the evidence that I've seen so far, we don't really know, but either somebody with power of attorney filled it out on her behalf or she did, because it is what it is. When you fill out a personal loan application for mortgage, whatever that may be, generally you fill that out yourself, right? But this was different because with Trump, it was his company. Do you think Donald Trump goes around filling out loan agreements? He may negotiate. But anyway, so Donald Trump said this is how big this property is. But at the end, there was a disclaimer that actually said, and this was brought up by Deutsche Bank and Trump's lawyers, that said, you need to go do your own inspection of this property. Do your due diligence, essentially. And they actually did that and gave a counter offer. I think Trump wanted $250 million or something like that. He wanted a higher number, and they settled on a lower number because they found out, well, hang on, your property is not as quite as big as you say it is. But it's basically the difference between I don't know if you guys have ever been involved in selling a house, but there's livable square footage and then there's total square footage. There was a number wrong on the total square footage. I think they got the numbers flipped or something like that. I forget exactly what it was. It's been a while since I've litigated that case. But it was basically a number flub. And it was caught by Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank said, no, look, this is the number. And they based their loan upon their own due diligence, upon the lower number. They didn't base the loan upon the numbers that was given by Trump. So basically, that whole case was because of an accident. And now Letitia James is trying to claim, oh, I just made a mistake. You put down that was your primary residence. That's the big one right there. To get favorable loan terms. We know this because, once again, we saw the document itself, but we know that banks, they charge a much higher interest rate when you're buying a secondary home or a vacation home or something like that, because the risk is much, much higher. So you're going to have to pay penalties, if you will, to get that home. You can't do that. You can't put it's your primary residence to get favorable loan terms. It's the exact same thing that Trump did. Is it a little bit petty of the Trump? Yeah, it is. But once again, it's not the exact same thing, but it's very, very, very similar, right? In Trump's case, there was a flub number. In this case, she put down it was her primary residence. But see, there's a secondary consequence to that. That if convicted, she could absolutely be impeached. She will be impeached. That's fascinating. The Justice Department has also been investigating mortgage-related allegations against Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook, using the probe to demand her ouster, and Senator Adam Schiff, whose lawyer called the allegations against him transparently false, stale, and long debunked. Yeah, they're going after Adam Schiff for the same thing. And to be honest with you, look, you guys know I do not like Adam Schiff at all. But in Adam Schiff's case, if anybody has credible excuse for this, essentially, Adam Schiff does. Because he put down his residence, I do believe, in Maryland as his primary residence. Well, the dude's a senator. He spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C. Now, a senator, they have to have a residence within their state. Right? He has to have his primary residence within their state. Now, once again, he lied on his mortgage application and said that his residence in Maryland was his primary residence. Now, this is a tricky one because, once again, the residence in Maryland for all these senators, if they choose to go that route instead of flying back and forth, right? If they choose to purchase a home in the area, technically that's going to be their primary residence. So once again, this is kind of iffy, right? It's technically a violation, but I can kind of see, like, once again, guys, look, don't admonish me down in the comments for this, but if any of these are bogus, it's the one against Adam Schiff, to be honest with you. And once again, where's the political retribution against Lisa Cook, for crying out loud? Who the hell is Lisa Cook? A Fed chair? Or a Fed governor? For real? Donald Trump is focusing his political retribution on an insignificant worm, if you will. But not really. But, I'm being a little bit facetious with that, but she's a Fed governor. Sorry, I keep saying Fed chair, but she's a Federal Reserve governor. She's insignificant to Donald Trump. Why would he focus his political retribution on her? There's no reason, folks. It's because they broke the law. That's it. It's not because of political retribution. But James is a particularly personal target. As Attorney General, she sued the Republican president and his administration dozens of times and oversaw a lawsuit accusing him of defrauding banks by dramatically overstating the value of his real estate holdings on financial statements. I love that. I love that. But did he get the loan based on those inflated numbers? No, he didn't. He got the loan based on the real numbers. Folks, once again, it's tantamount to saying, I want to sell this vape right here and I want $100 for it. Well, you could go buy one of these brand new for $20, right? But this has sentimental value to me because it's been with me for a week. I want $100 for it. How can you tell me I'm wrong? How can you try to say I'm trying to commit fraud upon somebody that I'm trying to sell that to? That's what we have going on here, essentially. I'm just saying. This is not the same thing, right? It's not exactly the same thing. It's very, very similar. But Letitia James said that was a primary residence. Once again, is it petty? I will give them that. It is petty. Does he need to do this, right? Waste a bunch of time, right? But good. She should have never brought those charges in the first place. Once again, if you come at the king, you better not miss. And they missed. They did miss. Absolutely. Nicked him in the ear. You guys, that's all I got. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Don't forget to punch on that like button for me if you don't mind. Just slap it right upside the thumb if you could. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and all over the place if you can. If you could, click that join button. Sign up and become a member. That's the best way to help this channel expand and grow. But you guys remember that God has a plan for everybody, y'all. He really does. You may not know what that plan is, but it's there. I promise you. And he loves each and every one of you out there. So you guys try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.